You're probably in your own room right now, door closed, spending time in your own private space. Nobody can see you. Nobody can hear you. You're alone. You do this inside your house without even thinking about it because you're used to it. You don't realize what a massive luxury it is to use the bathroom by yourself. But think about this. For 290,000 years of human history, those doors you just closed didn't exist. No walls, no separate rooms, no personal space whatsoever. You were born into a group of 20 to 50 people, and you lived every single moment of your life in front of that group. You ate together, slept together, argued together, cried together. In other words, you couldn't get 5 minutes alone. So how did ancient humans deal with that? Did they completely give up on privacy? Did they actually enjoy living that way? Or did they come up with creative solutions we wouldn't even think of today? Once you find out the answer, you'll probably never look at your bathroom door the same way again. Let's start with a question everyone wonders about, but nobody really wants to ask out loud. Did ancient humans have any privacy at all? The short answer is almost none. And scientists got genuinely curious about this and started digging into it. Social psychologist Erwin Altman spent years researching privacies across dozens of cultures all around the world. And what he found was genuinely eye-opening. Privacy was a universal human need, and every single culture he studied had developed interesting mechanisms to manage it. But here's the fascinating part. Those mechanisms look nothing like anything we're familiar with today, because ancient humans didn't have walls or doors. They had something else entirely. The first thing they had was nature. When you live out in the open with no walls and no doors, the forest becomes your bathroom. Rivers become your shower. The hill behind the camp becomes a private restroom you can quietly slip away to. If any of you have been camping, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But that wasn't the surprising part, because anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherer groups discovered that humans instinctively used the natural environment as a privacy system. When someone wanted to be alone, they'd walk into the trees. And everyone else understood why they went behind the trees and didn't follow them. That's actually not so different from what modern people do when they go camping. But what set them apart was that they handled most of their business at night. Nature gave them darkness as a gift. Without artificial lights, the moment the sun went down, the world went completely dark. And darkness is the oldest privacy system in history. Between sunset and sunrise, they had 8 to 10 hours. And during that time, forget about seeing someone walk into the woods. They couldn't even see the person right next to them without a fire. Modern humans built houses with extra rooms just to maintain this kind of privacy, even within their own families. But ancient humans didn't have that option. When darkness fell, they made it work. But what about when they were in the middle of the group? Imagine a couple wanting a private moment while sleeping together with 15 other people. How did they pull that off in front of everyone? This is exactly where ancient humans developed something that genuinely shocked researchers when it was first documented. Civil inattention. It might sound too simple, but it's actually incredibly sophisticated. The rule was this: if someone wasn't directly talking to you, you tuned them out completely. You'd turn your head the other way, or stare at something across camp like it was the most interesting thing you'd ever seen, or quietly mumble to yourself. You basically acted as if you were completely alone. In other words, ancient humans built invisible walls through mutual understanding and collective courtesy. Anthropologist Thomas Gregor documented this behavior extensively among the Mehinaku people of the Amazon. The Mehinaku, one of the societies closest to the ancient hunter-gatherer lifestyle, had developed a complex social code of civil inattention despite living in extremely cramped shared spaces. You could have a private conversation right in the middle of a crowded, communal area because everyone around you had silently and collectively learned to act like they weren't there. So there were no doors or walls separating you from other people. Just a quiet social agreement that said certain moments belonged to certain individuals. Though personally, I still believe there were ancient humans in those groups who were secretly listening and gossiping anyway. But let's move on. The Mehinaku did something else too. And when I first heard about it, I thought it was completely ridiculous. They built secret trails through the forest. Not just one or two. They literally created an entire network of hidden paths surrounding their village. Everyone knew the trails existed, but every route was personal. Some people used them for secret meetings. Some used them to just disappear for a little while. Others used them for conversations nobody else was supposed to hear. Think about it. These were people living in a small communal village with no concept of private property, no idea what an individual room was, and zero personal space. And yet they still managed to create personal space for themselves. They did it by building secret trails. The need for privacy was so powerful that they actually engineered their way around its absence. But let's not dwell on just the Mehinaku, because they weren't the only ones doing this. On the other side of the world, researchers studying Javanese communities in Indonesia discovered a completely different but equally fascinating system. In Javanese communities, homes were completely open. Yes, there were 4 walls and a structure, but no doors and no windows. Neighbors could hear and see everything happening inside the house. So how did they maintain any privacy at all? Through behavioral codes. Javanese culture has an extremely complex system of etiquette. There were specific gestures, postures, and facial expressions that signaled someone was occupied with something private. And the moment anyone saw those signals, they automatically created distance. No questions asked, no approaching, no commentary. There were no physical walls. But their social walls were so well constructed, they served the exact same purpose. Anthropologists call this etiquette-based privacy. And this system still exists today in Japanese and East Asian cultures. We often misread it as coldness or aloofness. But what they're actually doing is carrying forward thousands of years of sophisticated privacy practice. And hold on, because it's about to get even more interesting. Researchers discovered that ancient humans didn't just create social privacy, they created psychological privacy too. In most hunter-gatherer cultures, there were strong social rules against asking people direct questions about their inner lives. You wouldn't ask someone why they were sad. You couldn't pry into someone's personal feelings or directly ask them about a problem with their partner. This wasn't indifference. It was how the group showed respect for one another. The silent understanding between them was this: your inner world belongs to you. You share it when you want to. When you don't, it stays with you. Modern psychologists have a term for this. They call it psychological boundaries, and we treat it like this incredibly modern and sophisticated concept. There are literally hundreds of self-help books written about it. But in reality, it's something ancient humans were practicing instinctively 50,000 years ago. And there's one more thing, and this might be the strangest one of all. Ancient humans used noise as a shield for their privacy. Researchers studying communal living groups noticed something unexpected. When everyone was talking, laughing out loud, or singing, individual conversations became surprisingly private. The ambient sound of a busy camp masked what people were exchanging with each other one-on-one. So ancient humans didn't have their most sensitive conversations in quiet corners. They had them right in the middle of all the noise. When you're in a loud environment, nobody can hear what you're saying privately. That's why modern people have private conversations in loud restaurants today. We're still doing something our ancestors figured out 100,000 years ago. And here's something else you've probably never thought about. Ancient humans cared deeply about privacy even during sleep. You might think 20 to 50 people sleeping together would be total chaos. But research shows the exact opposite. In hunter-gatherer groups, sleeping arrangements were highly organized and ritualistic. Who slept next to whom, where in the group you slept, who was closest to the fire, and who was farthest away. None of it was random. Every detail carried social meaning. And the most fascinating part is that in some groups, an entirely different set of social rules applied during sleep. Sleep had become a kind of sacred private space, protected by a social contract. No physical door required. Just a collective agreement. Now we've reached the part that changes everything. For most of human history, privacy wasn't something you had. It was something you were constantly negotiating. Yes, with everyone in the group. Researchers who have lived among modern hunter-gatherer groups found something unexpected. These communities with zero physical privacy experience remarkably low rates of the psychological problems we associate with lack of privacy today. No anxiety about being watched, no random paranoia at night, because the social contract between them was crystal clear. We see each other, we know each other completely. And that's exactly why we choose not to look and not to listen when it matters. Now compare that to what we live with today. We have more physical privacy than any humans in history. Locked doors. Everyone has their own private bedroom, noise-canceling headphones, our own private bathrooms. But have we ever felt more watched? Every click we make on our phones is being tracked. Every video we watch is recorded. Our location is constantly being logged. Companies know what we've bought, what we've looked at, and even what we've thought about buying. It looks like we have far more privacy than our ancestors could have ever imagined, but in reality, we have far less. Ancient humans had no doors, but they had something we've lost: infinite trust in each other. Next time you close your bathroom door, think about this. The concept of that door only goes back about 300 years. Before that, most people didn't even have doors. And before that, for 290,000 years, humans managed their need for privacy with something far more powerful than any physical barrier: each other. With that silent agreement that said, "I see you, and it's because I see you that I choose not to look." That might be the most deeply human thing our ancestors ever invented, and we've almost completely forgotten it. I'd love to hear your thoughts on privacy in the comments. Did ancient humans actually have more privacy than we do? Or do we? Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Bye.